You happen to know Jason Pike by any chance?
Yeah, I do.
He was just out here helping dive on the river out here with us
Oh my God,
at
that's
the Guadalupe
fantastic.
floods. Yeah, good guy.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I heard you were doing that. That's fantastic. Good job.
Great people.
All right, here we go. Hello, everyone. It's Michael Jacob with Unleashing Intuition Secrets, joined today by Dr. P. Chambers. I have been praying for this to happen because I believe in Dr. Pete Chambers. Hopefully, he's our next governor for Texas, not ours, but ours being the United States. He's a leader you can trust. This is from the drpetechambers.org website, so highly recommend you check him out. Lieutenant Colonel retired, Special Forces Green Beret, physician, servant, leader. Dr. Pete Chambers is a decorated U.S. Army veteran whose remarkable 39-year military career includes service in active duty, reserves, and the National Guard. He began his service as an enlisted infantryman and became a senior Green Beret officer and special operations flight surgeon. He honorably served in multiple overseas and combat deployments. He was honored to serve Texans in the Texas Army National Guard during his last 8 years in uniform. Doc is a combat wounded Purple Heart recipient and has also been awarded numerous awards, including the Bronze Star Medal, Meritorious Service Medal, and Combat Medical Badge. Testaments to his courage and leadership in combat and operational medicine. Dr. Pete Chambers, it's a pleasure and honor. Thank you for coming on.
It's great to be here, sir. Looking forward to. I was looking forward to it. I heard about you and watched you a few times.
Oh, very good, very good. Yeah, I've talked about you on my show, and I just thought everybody knew about you. And there were people like, "Who's Dr. Pete Chambers?" I was like, "Oh my God, I got to get him on so people will know." And we got to get you elected. Geez, you're everything you're running for, and we'll go over that is phenomenal. Let's talk about your background
Sure.
in the military. Give us a little quick overview of your military
Yeah.
career, and then we'll go
Yeah.
into how you decided to become a running candidate for Texas governor.
Right. Yeah. I'll do a 40,000 foot view. So in 1983, Ronald Reagan was the president. I became an infantryman. I was at Fort Benning, Georgia on 3 September 1983, watching Grenada on the tube, and they were jumping in. I'm like, good, we're going to do something. And then crickets for us. Nothing happened. And that's just the way it is. When you're a grunt, you want to put your bayonet into any kind of target you can find. And I was a grunt. I was basic 11 Bravo infantryman. Nothing spectacular. But I served because my dad, was an immigrant. He was a partisan fighter in World War II in a civil war in Greece. Came to America. I said, "You're going to go in the Army when you're 18." Well, I was 17 when he signed me up. 18, got in. Did my time. Got a first honorable discharge 1990. My dad was a small town doctor, so I became a physician. And then during that time, right after residency, 9/11 happened. I'd been in the reserves and stayed. Always had one foot in the military. But that changed everything for us. I thought, well, I'll get in. I'll go to special forces. What I wanted to do in the very beginning, but I had a broken leg and couldn't jump out of planes at the time. Got all that hardware taken out. Went to special forces and became a battalion surgeon. Once again, nothing spectacular, but still, I took care of the best people in the world downrange from all of our branches and the different just SOTFs and things that I was assigned to. And Iraq, Afghanistan a couple of times, and really, it was somewhere along the way around. I was a doc from 2003 to 2010 when I resigned my commission to go to the Q course, and they said, "Whoa, wait a minute, you're 45 years old or 44 at the time." I'm like, "Look, I'm going downrange with the guys. Why can't I go through the course?" They didn't let docs go, and so they said, "Well, we're going to write you a waiver." So that was the first time I got told no, and then something happened. I got a waiver, first doc to be given a waiver to go to selection. And there's lots of docs that were former 18 Deltas, which is Special Forces medics.
Yep.
But there's not very many. There was only 5 in the history of the Army that did it the way I did it, which was break the mold, get into the course, and then beware of what you wish for. So it was good. Learned a lot. I was 45 in selection. I had the psychological advantage in that I had already been.
What's the average age of people that are going through selection?
Yeah, going through selection, you can have the 18 X-rays in there in their young 20s. A lot of them don't make it; they come back and try again. But typically, you're going to see more senior, E5s, E6s coming in, enlisted men, and then captains or senior lieutenants for the officer side. I was a major and a doctor, so there was a lot of instructors that just looked at me sideways, like, I don't know if you're going to make it through this. You know, we're going to protect our tab, which, you know, hey, I always told them, like, treat me like anybody else. I'm nobody special. I'm just a dude. And so I already had that mindset. My dad trained me to be an unconventional warrior way back in the day, having lived
Oh,
through a
that's
lot of
beautiful.
it. Right. So I went back. I went into 2nd Battalion, 3rd Group, Fort Bragg. That's where I finished my active duty time. Did one trip with them, and then did some JSETs, Joint Combined Exchange Training programs downrange. Came out in 2015. Went to the Texas National Guard. Last 8 years, we have 2 Special Forces reserve units in Texas. I was a commander in one of them, and then when I
Wow.
made lieutenant colonel, they made me a flight. Well, I was a flight surgeon, but they made me a surgeon for a special operations detachment, Alpha, it's called, which our area of operations was Africa. So did that. But the best thing for me in that job was actually working our own border, Operation Lone Star. That is where I felt like for the first time in my life, I'm like, protecting my backyard. This is awesome. Like, so
Wow.
that
I
was
got
it.
chills on that one. That's good.
That was a great mission. It's still going on now. I'd still be there if I hadn't come up against a 2-star general that gave me a direct order to quit doing informed consents. Then I got, got persona non grata, so to speak, because I told him it was an unlawful order, which now we know, Pete Hegseth has said, yeah, it was an unlawful order. So, 4 years later, here I am, out, but, I don't regret it. I got to testify in SEALs versus DOD. They didn't want, a group of them didn't want to take it based upon religious exemptions.
I
I
remember
testified
that.
on
You
the stand.
testified for that? That's amazing. Thank you for that.
Oh, absolutely. I
Wow.
mean, sometimes Green Berets got to come to the aid of the SEALs every once in a while. So
Well, it does happen, yeah.
it does happen, but I didn't mind it. It was the principle of it, and we did
Yeah.
prove 3 things in court. They weren't safe, they weren't effective, and we could do it by lesser intrusive means, meaning you don't have to get shots. So bottom line up front is we won the case, but the mandates were dropped. Thank goodness.
Mhm.
Continued mission. I got out of the military. I had my good 20 years in the Guard. They call that, plenty of years to get out. And I went to work on the border doing threat vulnerability assessments for ranchers, and then got into counter human trafficking, which then got us into the spotlight a little bit. Got on some shows, Alex Jones, Tucker Carlson, some different shows. And that really then people started noticing, okay, who's this dude, right? Because I didn't have
Right.
anything on media right before when I was an operator. And I say operator loosely, I wasn't a door kicker, but I was, I earned the right to at least have a Green Beret. So that's what I was. But it put me in the spotlight, but then people started coming to me asking me, could you help me in this town? Could you help me in this town? This law enforcement, we're not getting some help on this counter human trafficking deal. And I'd bring in guys from all around the country, different groups, and we would come in and work with law enforcement and make some inroads there. And that's when this past year, around April, May, a group of Christian folks came up to me and said, would you run for governor? I'm like, no, I'm not a politician. I'm not going to do it, period. And so I said, all right, I'll pray about it, I'll think about it, and I'll just see where the peace lies. And truly it was after a few phone calls from some people to me during that week that I would make the decision. And it was like, we're considering maybe putting somebody up against Abbott. I'm like, did you talk to these other people? Because I don't think, I think there's some kind of shenanigans going on and there's an ambush going on, but it wasn't. It was just different people. And they're looking at, now I understand it after talking to Alan West, who ran against Abbott 4 years ago,
Right, yeah.
3+ years ago. I talked to him and I said, hey, brother, where you at? He goes, I'm in Normandy. I just jumped out of a plane to a
Oh
reenactment.
my God.
And I said, okay. I said, you ran. What do you think? And he goes, not yes, but hell yes. We need to get control of what's going on in this country. The status quo politicians they're not enlightened as to what's really happening. Politics hasn't changed, but the security of the nation has. And that was one of the key cornerstones of my decision making process. Then we went into a feasibility study and realized we're going up against an 80 to $100 million war chest. Can we do this? And now I believe we can, because we've got the best and the brightest tier 1 targeters, guys on my staff, all volunteers, all live on disability and retirement, and they're helping me out. And we are targeting just the 1.5 million people that we really need to win in an off-cycle primary to win the primary against the incumbent Republican. So that's the overall story gets us to today.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, Alan West. Wow, what a story.
Yeah,
Great,
yeah,
great man. So
great
having
patriot.
him give you like the thumbs up, that's amazing.
Yeah,
So when I heard about you, I was like, this Doc Pete Chambers. I've heard about you over the years, and uh, you helped 6,000 plus
yeah,
soldiers from not getting the vax mandates, kept
right.
them away from that.
Yes,
Thank you for
sir.
that. Wow, wow.
Well,
So and that was
we,
tough. That must have been tough for you,
yeah.
and it sounds like it may have ended your career.
It did. Yeah, oh, yeah. Well, I'd still be
Yeah,
on the border right now. I love the job. It was the best job I
right.
ever had.
Mm,
We were literally looking for a needle and a stack of needles with regard to counterterrorism. But
sure.
the numbers coming across the border as Trump put the proverbial tourniquet on the flow. Hey, that's great, but we still got 1,000 tiny cuts. So for
Oh,
me, I
wow.
know what's come through. 150 countries came across that border during my time.
Mm,
12,500 roughly a week. 1,254 miles of Texas border. So that's a lot. And even with 6,000 soldiers, you cannot. And we weren't ordered to stop them. We were listening posts, observation posts, and I spent just about every third night on the border with the troops because that's where I like to be, is where things could
nice.
possibly happen. And
Good
so
job.
I would just drive along the border and had PAs and all the different locations, and they would report back to me with sick call notes. But for me, it was getting eyes on to see exactly what was going on because I still had that mindset of 18 Alpha, Green Beret officer. And so I would liaise with, local law enforcement on the border, the Texas Ranger, they have their special operations teams, BORTAC, that's the Border Patrol teams. And we would just work together to try to solve the problem of finding those, like I said, those bad actors that were slipping through the seams and the gaps of chaos, as we both know, is how we operate in an environment that's semi or non-permissive. It's just look for
Right.
the gap, chaos, and then come around it.
Man, there was a time where I was going to volunteer to go there on my own to help secure the border, but I was kind of
Yeah.
concerned with the Biden administration, sending
Oh,
the FBI to up my rear to haul me out of there. So did
yeah.
you encounter anything like that while you were up
Oh,
on the border?
absolutely. Oh,
Really?
absolutely. Oh
Wow.
gosh, yeah, yeah. They had an FBI agent walk in. We were in Del Rio. There was 17,000 Haitians that showed up in 24 hours in Del Rio, and a few years back, about 3 years back, and we were in an operation center, a trailer on the border. There was 40 of us green suiters on the border when they showed up, and they said, "Hold them." I'm like, "Hold them." Like, get them under the bridge. And I'm like, we got 40 dudes down here. So there was a video that a lot of people saw where 400 highway patrol trucks showed up and helped us that day. And there was a thing where a border patrol guy was whipping someone with his horse. He wasn't whipping him with his reins. He was using split reins, and then caught the camera action. Haitians were coming across like crazy. We were trying to put them underneath a bridge so that we could account for everyone and make sure there
Right.
were no bad actors coming through. There were tons of them. You play football, end arounds took place all day long. We didn't have enough bodies there on the ground to stop them. I think we doubled the population of the town of Del Rio easily. But during that operation, this lady comes busting in wearing a Hillary Clinton pantsuits, and she's with the FBI, and she's like, "I'm here from the FBI," and we're like, we all turned around and went, "Okay." We got Texas Rangers in there, we got us in there. And she goes,
Nice.
"This group down here is a bunch of white extremists that are coming down to create mayhem." We're like, "Let me see that group." I looked at him like, "No, that's actually some Hispanic guys, and they're down here bringing sandwiches to us while we're out here, in this sun and heat, and bringing water and food." But it was just that. Are you kidding me? Like, that's what
Wow.
you came to tell. That's what you came to aid to this situation, and that was during the Biden administration. Matter of fact, the people in town called that situation. People of Del Rio called it, not me, Bidenville. They said we got Bidenville down by the river, which is
Mm,
it was complete mayhem. I've got some great footage. I flew over in a C2 element, command and control, pointing it out to the bosses like that's where they are, and watching the federales push them, the Mexican federal police pushing them into the United States because they had a time hack that they had to get them all across. This is the border. Welcome to the border. There's people getting shot at all the time. We get shot at. It's harassment fire. It's not pointed, aimed. My threat vulnerability assessment that our teams did, the Green Berets on the border, said, "Sir, we need to, conduct some different kind of operations here." And there was no flavor for that, even though it's allowed in the Texas Constitution. Protect your own border, especially your troops. Our rules of
oh my
engagement
God.
were,
Yeah. No
if you
kidding.
get shot at,
Ooh,
this is our rules of engagement. If you
yeah.
get shot at on the border, get in your Humvees that are up armored and drive away. Now,
Mm.
there was a guy named William Beret Travis, and on the 24th of February, 1836, he wrote a letter from the walls of the Alamo inside that said, fellow citizens, compatriots. Now it goes on to say, come to our aid with all dispatch, with everything that's dear to the American character, and everyone to a man died in that battle. He would be rolling over in his grave if he knew that Texans were running away from shots being fired from the south.
No
But that
kidding.
was the rules of engagement.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they were tough in the early days in Iraq. I remember I was working with the CIA at the time, and I was like, "What are you guys waiting for?" And they're like, "Our rules of engagement, they have to actually shoot at us before." I was like, "They're setting up. They're setting up their mortars. They're going to mortar us in a minute. Shoot them!" Like,
Yeah.
and then we get mortared, and everybody's running, and no one gets shot at. And then I started. They're like, "Can you do it?" I was like, "Yeah, I
Yeah.
have that authority." If our lives or the people we're protecting lives, I believe they're in danger, I can shoot. So we started shooting at them and drove them away. But the Army guys couldn't do it. It was
And that
insane.
had to
So I
be
feel for you, man.
around, yeah, probably after 2006. I imagine I was there early, so we had a different set of rules of engagement early,
Yeah,
but
yeah, that was in early 2000. Yeah.
okay, yeah. So things change, and so we're down here though. It is in the Constitution. You can protect yourself, and you can protect the
Mm.
border. That's in the Constitution of the state of Texas, as well as the enumerated powers that the federal government has. But it does have within that the U.S. Constitution, the states do have the right to defend their borders.
Yeah,
But
that's
typically,
great.
it's not like Alabama versus Georgia. This is like this is
Yeah.
this is the border,
And
and it's
and
it's
how
crazy.
many like just for your estimate, I mean, you have probably a good eye for this
Mhm.
because you've been down there so much. How many real terrorists do you think came across that border, in your opinion?
30,000 in our sectors. This is an estimate based upon
30,000?
this is an estimate, but during the Biden administration, this is an estimate. We had 12,500 show up in one day in Eagle Pass, and those were Venezuelans. And this was on 18th December, 2022. I was just had got out of the military. I was there doing some counter human trafficking work when they showed up, and a good portion of them were from an organization called Tren de Aragua, which is
Right.
the area of Aragua in Venezuela. They're the train of Aragua. They are thugs. They're out of prison. They're thugs. Tattoos of AK-47s on their face, that kind of stuff. It's not hard to identify a bad actor. So we were able to glean a lot of information based upon our biometrics, based upon our knowledge. And then, we would look at the ones that would run away. The gotaways is what the official word is. Kind of weird, but that's what it is. And we would look at that number and say, okay, well, out of those, the reason they ran wasn't because they wanted to go through the centers where they were being accounted for, then given their court dates for 2 to 3 years out. We're talking about the people that specifically ran away from us, and some of those did get away because we just overwhelmed.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, Venezuela, I think we're probably going to spank them here pretty soon, but
Yeah, it looks
uh
like it. Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, they're responsible, I think, for all the drugs. And in Rio de Janeiro, there's like a war going on in that city right now, and that's Venezuelan sponsored as well.
Venezuela, it's the nation sponsors the cartel, the Suns, and that's run by generals. They call it the Suns because the rank looks like a sun. Um,
Mm.
and so the cartel de Solos or Los Solos, those guys are the most powerful cartel on the border. We know about CDN, CNJG, Gulf Cartel, Sinaloa. We hear about those. Those guys are, especially the East and the West. On the West Coast, Sinaloa's. They're more like a mafia organization. They're not going to
Mhm.
get into it with somebody. But some of these other guys that are former Los Zetos, guys that unfortunately Green Berets trained way back in the day, we run into this problem quite regularly.
Yeah.
Is we see them being a little more bold in their approach, vitriolic, and literally just downright playbook out of ISIS stuff, cutting
Wow.
bodies up, hanging them under bridges. I mean,
Mm.
nasty stuff. And we see that, and they are in our country. They are not just in Texas. Every state's a border state, but it came through here, and all the way down the border to you guys. So
Mhm.
we've got like we say, the old NASA saying, Houston, we've got a problem. Yeah, we've got a problem. I don't want to be the guy that's scaring people, but as a believer, I read Ezekiel 33, which says you're a watchman, and if you're a watchman and you don't answer the call, if you don't blow the trumpet, you don't have to scare people, but just let them know that there is someone in charge that's going to take care of them. But if you don't, it's on your own head. Now, if you tell people and they don't care, it's on them. But we've got to give that warning sign. And a lot of us are, not just me, but other people on, friends of mine on Newsmax, Jason Jones, a former Intel guy on the border. I mean, he's out there now just killing it on Newsmax, letting people know this is what's happening. Our very
I think a lot of
organization.
our major cities we're gonna have some problems. They're gonna.
It's just it's a hybrid threat. So there's multiple different bad actors,
Yeah,
and it's when it's really just when it's
I say,
and then
yeah.
you have to ask how bad, because I've seen things that come out. People say, "Oh, this is it. This is gonna be the summer of hate," whatever, and you really got to use some good judgment there before you make that call. But it is an art and a science. The art of what we call left of bang theory. Getting before you get to the IED, you want to be able to have things set up in a row. The military on the Army side calls it SOFSAT, situational awareness training.
Mhm.
But it's looking for those cues to then go, okay, now this is what they've done. They've set the conditions for XYZ, and then we can act. But being prepared is never a problem set. That's probably a cornerstone of our campaign, is just building up the infrastructure in Texas to be able to handle that.
Right. I mean, just from what we're talking about right now, the border. I mean, your leadership is highly valuable for Texas and for the country. That
We
alone
do need
should
it.
get you in office. Now, you have a lot of other key issues. Let's go through some of
Sure,
these.
sure.
Unbelievable. When I went through this, I was like, "You got to be kidding me! How is it that you're not like national news right now?" It's like we got to get
Well,
the
I know.
grassroots going for you, man.
I know
Uh,
the answer to that question, but go ahead.
okay, all right. So we've been talking about securing the border and stopping human trafficking. Tell us a little bit about the human trafficking.
So human trafficking, there's a list in Texas. It's a major crimes list, and I've talked to the upper level management and DPS, Department of Public Safety. As the governor, you're the commander in chief of all forces, to include Department of Public Safety. So you set the conditions, and essentially the end state. You give them your commander's intent. So human trafficking is really not on the major top 10 list, but it is a major problem for Texas in that 300 plus 350,000 unaccompanied minors are missing from the border.
Mm,
This was testified to by Tara Rodas. We've talked to her. She's helped us. We found currently 119 kids that are from that particular group. We've been able to recover 35 of them. We know that they went to gangs in downtown Austin. These were boys that we were specifically looking at. Um, so we know that there's a problem set there. And so let's, if I set the conditions, then I say, hey, I want this higher up on that list, right? We're going to dedicate more resources. So there's a lot of ways we can do that without overloading the current workload for the Department of Public Safety, which is actually plussing up the Texas State Guard, which is one of 16 states Texas is that allows for a militia. It's a state militia. It is under the Texas Military Department, but right now it acts more like a civil affairs unit.
okay.
Hurricane hands out blankets,
Mhm.
but Florida actually has a special mission unit. So why not do the same thing here? I hate to follow Florida. I'm not going to do that. We are going to build a special mission unit, a maritime branch, if you will, an air
Wow.
branch and a ground branch in the
Wow.
state of Texas, to allow for former operators. I can't throw a dead cat in Central Texas, by the way, without hitting an operator. I promise you.
Absolutely.
And so, there's a lot of them retired here. And when I
That's
talk to
that.
them about that, they're like, you mean I can take care? I don't have to worry about getting pulled up on Title 10? No, because you belong to the state and it's volunteer. If you don't
Oh
want to
my
do it,
God.
don't do it. But if I've got you at home and you're part of this unit, will license you, credential you, give you LEO credentials, and you go to work when you feel like when we feel like we need you, or when you
Mhm.
feel like it's volunteer. Hey, I can go work this weekend.
That's
So
fantastic.
that's House Bill 4914, which we did push across Abbott's desk this past year. It didn't pass. He could have exorted it, but executive order. But he chose to let it go into a committee. It didn't come out of committee. It's okay. We'll get it there. I'll executive order that day one.
God, that's oh my God. Yeah, there's a lot we could talk about here. So in
Yep.
your statement here in the first paragraph, last sentence, Doc Pete Chambers will secure, capital letters, Texas borders and repel this threat with a phased approach rooted in his military and foreign diplomatic experience, adapting proven doctrines to restore control. I mean, there's no one more, like I said, more qualified than you to do this. From
Right.
your
Yeah, I
background and
definitely
your experience.
understand. Yeah, I understand FID, foreign internal defense, and have
Oh yeah.
operated both that space and the unconventional warfare space. My job as a doctor, when I was tabbed, especially, was to go into
Yeah.
this village or go into this place, conduct medical stuff, get to know everybody, and then get them to fight for us. That's what I did, in Farsi and Dari and, all the other languages we learned. Somebody on the team will speak one. But in this case, we're not doing foreign internal defense. We're doing domestic internal defense, which is a
Yes.
trademark thing now. And so, we've got to start thinking that way. If we don't, we're going to be right or bang.
Mm. So abolish property taxes. This is the hot topic right now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
In Florida, I just saw a report where they're showing that a lot of these counties, the
Right.
administrators in these counties, mayors and so forth, they're basically stealing this money and sabotaging this money that's supposed to be used. It could easily go away. We could easily abolish property taxes because these guys are abusing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The amount of money that's wasted in, just in education alone in Texas on school bonds, and the administrative costs are 80% of what is taxed to the citizen. So at the local level, those things are what's allowed for, and those go to the local level governance. Well, for us, there has to be some stopgap measures to keep that from happening, because that's unlawful plunder, and that's a Frederic Bastiat thing that he wrote about in his treatise called The Law. I recommend anybody read it. It's not very long, French Revolutionary times, but the unlawful plunder, because we've got to have a Doge system. There's people running for a comptroller in Texas, specifically Don Huffines, who wants to Doge Texas, which is great, because then
Awesome.
that's a compadre for me, and so
No doubt.
that will help. And I think he's got the best chance to win it. But that has to be done, and we can then streamline it. But the other thing is the appraisal districts. Every county's got one
Yes.
except for one in Texas, and it's weird because they are not being able to outfit those people with citizens of the community. They're chosen by the county commissioners. So now you're looking at this good old boy network, except for one county in Texas is completely owned by citizens, and they are the most efficient when it comes to appraisals of their homes.
Beautiful.
The other thing is, when you bought the home at this rate, okay, I don't believe in property taxes at all. It's not constitutional, but we can't phase it out day one. I'm looking at Governor Stitt, Oklahoma. He's doing the same thing. He's behind DeSantis right now, but they're going to do it. I believe that. I'm talking to their staffs on what they're doing, and I'm talking to experts in the field, and they're giving us, and you can see that's it right there. Actually, the phased withdrawal, if you will, of property taxes.
Yeah,
But we've got
eliminate
to start
property
somewhere.
taxes the same manner you treated wounded soldiers. Stop the bleeding, treat the wounds, stabilize for long-term care. Now, one of the things I'm hearing is, and we all know this, is seniors. They buy their homes like 30 plus years ago, and land, and they've been living there, but their property taxes keep going up.
Keep
They
going
haven't
up.
sold it.
Correct.
It's based on what the property is for someone selling. That's
Not someone
insane that they
buying,
have
and
to
that's
continue to do
insane.
that.
California, did they have a proposition out there? I think it was 13
Mhm.
that they talked about. It was a really good proposition in that it remained the property that you bought it at, right? For the duration of you living in that as your primary domicile. So for me, that's a key thing. But the other
Sure.
thing is, let's flip it over a little bit and look at the incentives that the previous administration, I'm talking about them now that way, did. Is they lured in a lot of business and a lot of investments, a lot of technology, a lot of things into Texas, using that, a lot of loopholes for corporations not to pay taxes on their multi-billion-dollar infrastructure that they've built out. So that needs to be shifted back, and surely if you're making a profit on something, people aren't making profits on their homes, but they're slowly, incrementally being charged more and more, and typically happens at the county level, at the appraisal district level. That's got to stop. I sat in
Yeah.
on an appraisal meeting and learned a lot about it, just talking to them. The one county that did it, Johnson County, and said, all right, what are you guys doing that everybody else should be doing? And so we figured it out. And it's really that. It's just keeping that appraisal at the level of when you bought the home. And that saves that person, at least that for now. But for phase one, for me, is stopping the
Right.
bleed.
Yes.
That'll probably be a phase two thing, because we don't want to flip the economy on its head. We've got to be smart about it. And I'm not an economist by trade, but I understand numbers, and common sense is common sense.
Yeah, there's lots of other income that comes in that can support governments, in these counties and so forth.
That's
But
right.
yeah, I mean, it's to the point now where, especially in Florida, when I was there, they're kicking seniors out of their homes because they can't pay the property taxes anymore because they've skyrocketed. That's insane to me.
Yeah, and with the current model that's going on, a senior shouldn't have to pay school taxes. I mean, they
No,
don't have
no,
kids in
exactly.
school. If you homeschool, you shouldn't have to pay home taxes. This is common sense. So for
Sure.
me, that's day one thing right there,
Good
because
job.
there's no reason for them to pay for something that they're not, receiving. And that just makes sense. So a lot of people don't like that, and especially that's why we're having such a hard time with getting state legislators to jump on board with us. It's okay. We're going to let the people vote. It's a grassroots thing.
Yeah, great. So, medical freedom and health first. This is going to be a tough one because these people have a lot of power. We saw that with COVID.
They
Uh,
do.
what are your thoughts on this one?
So completely abolish the Texas Medical Board. Abolish it.
Oh my God.
Everybody that sits on that board is a donor to the current administration. Um, period. We're just going to say, look, we will create a task force, a citizens task force led by, I want Mary Talley Bowden, MD, to be heading it up. She's taking a beating right now with her giving ivermectin by a court order to a patient that was in the hospital, but she now they're claiming, oh, you didn't have credentials yet you had this court order. She went through the process,
Yeah.
was able to do it per the family's request, and the patient lived and was not put on remdesivir and was not put on all the things now that we're finding is detrimental to the just the organs of the body. I mean, just the ability
Right.
to function. So if we look at that, you bring somebody in like that, and then you build a task force for decentralized medicine, and it's still a medical board. They're still going to have to make sure that your licensure is up to date and that you're doing things right. But you're not going to allow corporations to put profit over patient care, because there's a lot of other modalities out there. We call those lesser intrusive means that we're finding can be, for fighting cancer and things like that. That we're in a different era. People are waking up to it. The MAHA movement is there for a reason.
Hmm.
And the mRNA technology, modified RNA, is what that means. Not messenger RNA. That's the play on the word. Modified RNA is not safe, and so I can't allow it in the state of Texas. Meaning, day one, moratorium, executive order, moratorium on all mRNA products in the food and anything that you could drink, anything that you could ingest or give to your cattle or give to your animals. Yeah, until we know, right? It's not an emergency use authorization anymore, because it still is, by the way. We're just not going to allow it in Texas. Now they can do whatever they want in DC, but you know, Pete Chambers' rule is, do no harm. It's not just my rule. Actually, a guy named Hippocrates wrote it, but that's a whole nother story.
Wow. And being a doctor, wow, you have that background in that too. So amazing, amazing stuff. This is another huge one, and pretty much the whole country's up in arms about this. Utah has a bill where they're going after their governor, who basically is there probably illegally. So this is very interesting. Election integrity. What are your
Oh yeah,
thoughts?
yeah. Election integrity. I can't get in without election integrity. Historically, Texas has a lot of shenanigans that go on during election
Really?
time. It's just
Mm,
historically. People don't know that. They think, well, it's a red state. Well, it's actually kind of turning blue
yeah.
in the cities. And so for me, hand count ballots are important. You can do this at the precinct level. I've learned how to do it. I've taught sheriffs how to do it. Well before running for sheriff, I mean running for governor, did I undertake that campaign, because I realized if I was going to do something civic duty, that was going to be my thing. I didn't know at the time I was going to run for governor, but now I see, that anytime you have the ability to have a source code that's plugged into some machine, and the source codes that we know that came out of the Dominion machines were out of Venezuela. It's well known. It's a known
Okay.
fact. Our intelligence committee is still working on that. I still have, I still talk to people up there. I have a lot of friends that are in that community, and
Hmm.
so I know what's going on. And it's just a matter of waiting for Trump. I believe it's not just waiting for Trump. I won't wait for him to do whatever I'm going to do here, but for waiting for him at the federal level right now to basically declare an emergency with regarding election integrity, because
Nice.
without that, we can't put people in like me who don't have $100 million war chests, and we're not part of the Bushies. You know, in Texas, there's two kinds of Republicans: Bushies and Trumpies. And unfortunately, most of our people still at the top are Bushies. And look, I liked President Bush when I was going down range to fight for him, but I didn't know, how much of the, we'll call it the corporatocracy, was involved in the reason we stayed in Afghanistan for 20 years.
I agree. Yeah, very
I mean, it's just,
frustrating.
yeah, it's
But
a
I
fact. And
wasn't have been over like all of them in a year, and I
yeah,
kept going
right.
back there and going back there, and we're like, we're all talking. We're like, what is going on? It's like, and I was
Bingo.
at the CIA. All the CIA people are like, what is going on? So yeah, it's a
Yeah,
mess.
yeah, it really is. And so we'll get there. It's just we've got to get in office. And I, you know, I kind of know where we're at right now. We're,
Good.
if you if you follow military history, we're at Point du Hoc on D-Day, shooting grappling hooks to the top of the cliffs right now. But that's where we're at. Or at least we're on the beach.
Love it, love it. When I was at SEAL Team 6, we had those old grappling hooks that
Yeah.
we would swim in, and we would like use those to shoot up onto the boat and climb.
Oh,
There was classic,
harrowing
amazing.
moments, I'm sure. God bless you. I'm glad
So
you did it.
I'm very very happy that you're a historian too. That's good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
ending lawfare and restoring justice. Wow, God, every one of these points are monumental, and you have such good ideas about each one of them. My God, you have to be the governor. We have to get you there.
Yeah, it is for we and by and for the people. I'm
Yeah,
constitutionalist as well. So the understanding there is that when we look at the labyrinthine process that is the Constitution of the state of Texas, it's 100,000 words long, the longest constitution in the country. Love the body of the Constitution of the state of Texas. It's beautiful. I mean, it gives the preamble in itself, under the ordains to the Creator, or gives to the Creator what is due to the Creator, but the propositions that came subsequent to its creation led to up to over probably 800 different amendments. And so now it's a labyrinth of a legislative labyrinth, if you will. So it's hard for people to really navigate through, including someone like me who doesn't have time to read every one of them. But I got a staff that reads on the things that we need to, right? Chaos,
yeah.
control the controllables. So we're controlling what we can. We're picking the main subjects, and we're going, okay, this is the fire hose you're drinking from today, Doc. And you got to learn this, learn it hard. Okay, roger that. And so I'm learning a mission. This is a pre-mission briefing. And so we're getting there. But the legislative lawfare, that's J6 stuff, bro. I mean, that's what it is. It is allowing law enforcement to get away with things that they shouldn't. And sometimes they don't know it. And I'm going to give them a little bit of graces because I was a reserve deputy for a while when I was home in the reserve. And I understand how those things can be misconstrued, and then power can get into somebody's mind who's never had power before, perceived power, and then go, well, I'm going to do this and because I can. Well, let's hold on there, Sheriff. Why aren't you stopping this FBI truck from going through these people's yard who were at J6, but they never went inside the building? You are the preeminent law enforcement person by the doctrine of lesser magistrates. We're talking John
Excellent.
Knox now, 1500s, going up against the lords for the people. And that's who our people, when our guys, our founding fathers wrote the documents, they looked at people like that and said, based upon these Christian principles, this is the way we treat people, right? And so there is due process. There is a speedy trial. There are all the things that have been overlooked with this passive aggressive mentality that a lot of times judges take, and judges are not the end all be all. They read law and they interpret it, but they're not authorized to make law. The making of the law is by the other corner of the market, which is the legislative branch, and that is another problem set unto itself. But I believe you hold everybody accountable, they start tightening up their shot groups at each individual level. That's what I believe. But the accountability is the key word there.
Absolutely. Wow. Staggering your background in every one of these issues. Citizen-led government.
Okay, that's it. So the authorities, guess what? There's a job description for governor. It's out there. I read it. And so the job description says the authorities that are given to the governor are that he has the authority to convene task forces of citizens and any subject that he deems necessary. So
Mm.
you have a decentralized medicine task force. You have a counter lawfare task force. You have a task force that is made up of citizens, education, that is made up of teachers and people. And when I'm out on the trail, this is what I'm doing. I'm listening to somebody ask me a question, because I usually allow for half of my time questions, which most politicians don't do. They don't want to be questioned in front of a bunch of people. I'm like, you don't sit on fences in Texas. They're made of barbed wire. So let's go. What do you got? And, you know, I'm not being facetious. I'm just like, let's get to the nut cutting, because we got a lot of work to do here. So when I find somebody that asks a passionate, well thought out question, I say, would you meet me afterwards on the side? I put their name on a list. And then in the future, we will call them and say, okay, if you wish, you can be on a citizen led task force for XYZ, whatever it is, education. I don't like vouchers. I like vouchers. I don't like school choice. I like school choice. It's a Hegelian dialectic, all this stuff. It's okay. Have the discourse in the back room, and I'm the commander. My job is to do what? My job is to put my intent out there, right? We want freedom. We want to give the republic back to people. And then your job is to provide me with this. The bottom line up front, the so what, why are you talking to me? And give me 3 or 4 courses of action. And we will fuse them, and we will make them, and we'll fit it so that it will work in the system that we've been given, to get around, if you will, the corporatocracy, and get around, if you will, the bureaucracy that slows things down. Because if I don't like this guy, he just got in, Pete Chambers, Donald Trump, I don't like this guy. Well, we're going to get around you, because we're going to let the citizens do it. And there is some good law there in Texas, a 391 commission. The citizens actually stopped the Trans-Texas corridor under NAFTA. That was Rick Perry's administration. The citizens did it because they said, we don't want this highway going from Mexico to Canada through our state. And they stopped it.
Good.
Citizens did that. So they have some power. They have real power in doing that. So
and I think that's a beautiful thing about what you're you know, trying to do here. Texans want a voice, not just a vote. I think we all want that, and we feel like once we vote somebody in, it's top down. And you're talking about grassroots, bottom up accountability. I love that.
Well, think about it. That's truly grassroots, but it's truly the ability to govern we and by and for. I mean, that is really
Be the people,
what I believe that the founders wanted. Is with, you know, the federal government has its enumerated powers, as I said before. Let them stay with that. You know, they conduct diplomacy, protect the borders, you know, all those things, interstate commerce, you know, infrastructure, big roads, highways with a letter I in front of it. Okay, got it. But everything else, let us handle it. We can do it, right? States' rights. I know you got a supremacy clause, and I believe in that, but I also know that it can be overused.
Yeah, I agree. Now, one thing I think you could help Texas out with is the endless road building. I've been through Texas, and it's so frustrating. I'm like, they've been working. I know that I've been through this like 20 years ago. They're still working on this.
They're still there.
Guess what? They're working on it.
Yeah. So 290 coming into Central Texas here out of Austin is a road that comes out to the hill country, and that road is being currently built. Has been being built for several years by a Chinese-owned corporation. Right? They're running it, and they are taking their sweet time with it. And we are sitting there in traffic for hours. Austin has overgrown itself because of the technology stuff and all the other second and third order effects of that. But we've got to stop with this. You know, first of all, your vendors, you got to choose the right vendors. Let's give it to Texas first. You know, people that actually live here, give them those things. But also, you know, you set decision point times. You say, okay, if you're not by this at this point, you lose your vendorship, because we've got to keep things rolling. And so I'm watching it, because going through Austin, going through Fort Worth. You know, it's Fort Worth has been under construction for 15 years. You know, I live, you know, my family's from the Red River. So, you know, coming back and forth to Dallas and all that, I'm like, man, come on, when are you guys going to finish this? So yeah, there's a problem set there.
No doubt. Now, you talked about how you went down to where the flooding was too.
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, that's a kind of a cool story. I mean, not cool for them. It was a terrible story, but in the sense of watching citizens in Texas really kick in, right? So day one, July the 4th, I was sitting in this operations trailer, you know, that we do our county room trafficking from. And I'm sitting here, and I get a call early in the morning. Now, I was supposed to be on a float that morning to kick off our campaign, but I got a call and said, Hunt is underwater. Kerrville is underwater. You have 30 foot above crest swells. What?
Jesus.
So we took off, we went to North Carolina to help them. We're definitely going to help our neighbors. So we
Oh,
went
great.
down the road, two guys until we get the rest of the team here. And then we called some other guys, Heroes for Humanity. That's a MARSOC guy that runs that. He's got a bunch of MARSOC divers, got in one Navy SEAL to help out with finding bodies because of the closure, for the families, but also day 1 through day 3, getting those guys in the air, putting them on Texas birds, right? So they can go do recons along the banks to look for those citizens that are wandering around that just got washed down the river. And there was a lot of them. Hundreds of people that were pulled from the side of the banks. I mean, there was one Coast Guard bird that was out here from Corpus. I believe that rescue swimmer pulled hundreds of people out himself. So there was a
Wow.
lot of work that needed to be done. So
Mm.
what I did was I just went into crisis mode and said, okay, what can I control? And as
Mhm.
citizens were coming to me and saying, and I'd put out daily sit reps on X. So people were reading them going, okay, this area needs help. They need dogs here. They need this there. And so then we would do that and just handle the C2 side of it administratively. I didn't have any really operational control over anybody, but then giving people work. And we had upwards of 17,000 people that responded. I dealt with about 10 or 12 groups, but underneath them, they dealt with theirs and
Right.
the hub and spoke mentality of a crisis situation. And so we were able to bring in a lot of great. I mean, we had hard hat divers from the rigs off the coast.
No kidding. Wow.
The MARSOC guys.
Yeah.
Jason Pike, SEAL, was down here.
Yeah.
He was helping them out. He's been with them for a while. So these are
Good
great
man. Good
people
man.
that
Yeah.
flew in from all over the country. I mean, from all over the country, and a lot of
Yeah.
them were Texans. Some of them were on active duty. I had some Green Berets on active duty from Texas that took leave to come down here and plus us up because I needed some 18 Delta medics just to help, with the divers. They
Wow.
were DMTs, so they could be. We weren't worrying about the bends, but just the average everyday crap that you guys run into with wetsuits on all day long. So
Yeah.
it was great to have them there, and that gave us. But here's what we got: we got slapped on the wrist because when the Texas Department of Emergency Management came in, they said, "All right, now you got to get everything okay through us." Well, that was like day 4. We're already been working, and so me being
Oh
connected to the
no.
Texas Military Department, I was able to rock it. Like we got a lot of things done in conjunction with Texas National Guard, aviation wing, and all those guys, and their maritime boats from Department of Public Safety. So those guys were putting boats in the water, going. I
Mhm.
just let them go. I didn't have to touch them once they got it. They're professionals. I didn't touch any of that
Absolutely.
Heroes for
Yeah.
Humanity stuff. I just stood back and said, "God bless you." And then I would get a call from like the Hunt fire chief, the city fire chief. I was like, "Why are you calling me?" He goes, "Because I can't get the emergency center to give me this. I need some dogs now." I'm like, "Stand by." I got on my other phone. "Here's your dogs, bro." And then they went to work. So it was a great
Unbelievable.
testimony to what citizens can do in an emergency.
I'm glad we talked about that, and
Yeah.
that's a testament to your leadership and how you can respond at a moment's notice to emergencies. And of course,
I've done
being a
done a
governor,
lot of them. Yeah.
you're gonna be tasked over your period of time where you're in there with a
Oh
lot of
yeah,
this stuff.
we'll have emergencies. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you talked about sit reps, how you're putting that out. Governor sit reps, transparency
Oh,
in action.
right. So right now I'm doing a few of them here and there just from the road, campaign sit reps, just letting people know situation report for the non-military people in the room. So the
Hmm.
situation report basically says, this is where we're at. This is what's going on. These are the needs. So we forecast needs, and then we put people troop to task, what they call in the Army. You put somebody to that task, and then you check it off and go completed. And so, as a governor, what I would do is, here's one you're going to really love. You haven't heard of this, or if you have, it's maybe heard it differently. It's called lobbyist TV. So we've heard of C-SPAN. The government's big government's. Whether we watch people and legislators and meet and talk. In this case, when somebody comes into the governor's office, it'll be on the calendar. If a lobbyist walks in, uh, citizens of Texas will be able to watch that meeting. So they will be able to see what are they talking about behind closed doors. Because here's what it looks like when you don't have that. It looks like an AI data center being put in Abilene that's using up a lot of water to cool servers. And Abilene gets less than 20 inches of rain a year, and the citizens' water bills are going through the roof. So these decisions weren't made at that level. They were made at the state level, and they made a deal with, I believe this one was with Microsoft. And so now you've got a data center that's using lots of, and this is a zero return on water, even though they claim that they can return a positive, net positive. I just don't know how without putting a pipeline of water. Why don't you move this to the coast where you got, salinated water and desalinate it? And then You pay for it, Microsoft, not the citizens.
Yeah.
Um,
Duh.
right.
Wow.
So that's it.
Love it.
That's just transparency in action.
Yeah, that's very good. There's probably a lot of that out there like that that needs a little bit of, transparency.
Yeah,
Texas
I
first,
believe
not
so.
California 2.0. So I remember I had a book company that I worked with in Austin, and I came into Austin and I was like, "What is going on here? This looks like California." This was well over 10 years ago. I was
Yeah.
like, well, first of all, it seems like somebody from New Jersey came and made the roads. It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
there's all these
Yeah.
liberals that are here that seem to be from California. I thought this was Texas. What's going on? So what's going on with this
Yeah,
California?
keep Texas, keep Austin weird, as they're saying in Austin, about 45 miles as a crow flies from me. Uh, but when I say don't California or Texas, I'm not talking to people, because the people that fled that live out around this area, the hill country, it's beautiful. They fled
Good.
for a reason, because of the politics, and so
Right.
we don't want that politics here. So Texas first, and that I wore one flag on my sleeve. People ask me, "Are you going to accept money from foreign countries or foreign entities?" I'm like, no. I had a U.S. flag on my shoulder, and I had a Texas flag on my body armor, and that's it. So
Nice.
Texas first, right? That's leading. That's if I'm a governor and it's my job to be your commander in chief as well as be responsible for your budget, then I have to be a man of my word and say, okay, I'm not in this to get rich, right? I got a retirement and I got disability. I'm 100% service connected. So nothing I'm proud of, but it is what it is. I
Mhm.
didn't land properly on a couple of jumps, and so it was my fault, but I got paid for it, so it's okay. I'll take the money. But for me, it's not Pete Chambers first. Public service is public service, right? We put
Mhm.
on that uniform, we took that oath. That's public service, it's service to the nation and to the Constitution. But for us now, at a legislative level, or as a political level, if you will, it is to put those citizens first. And so when I talk, I don't take a note with me. I never do, and I just say, okay. I look at the crowd and I read them and I listen. And I go, okay, I can feel it coming off you. Okay, so because Texas is like 8 different countries, by the way. You got different cultures out here, but there's always some common denominators that people concern about. Can they sleep at night peaceably in their beds without worrying about it? Right?
Yeah.
Do they have a leader that can do that? Number one. Do they own their property? Right? Sans any kind of deviation from the Constitution. And truly, do they have sovereignty? Do they have the God-given, creator-given sovereignty that's to them based upon that Constitution? So those are litmus tests for me. And I just look at a law or a bill and I say, well, this doesn't make sense. So let's work on it. We can delete laws. I mean, we'll just start pulling them off the books. We got 100,000 words we need to whittle down anyway. So to me, it's pretty simple. So, but put that litmus test to the Texas taxpayers, to them, and to the future education. Texas is number 40 in the country, right? Number
Uh,
40. And we're the 8th or 9th largest, maybe some people say 12th, depending on what metric you look at, largest economy in the world if we
mhm.
were our own country, the Republic of Texas. But we are 40th. How do you maintain that? Well, they're maintaining it right now with H-1B visas, bringing people that are trained in Mumbai to run technology, to give them jobs over our kids who are not being taught that same type of technology-based learning, if they want to have that. We're way behind the curve on that. So education, if we put Texas education first, I think we win. But it's going to take a generation.
Yeah, definitely. But it starts one step at a time, and that'd be a leap if you got in there, I believe. So it's right to life, from
Yeah.
conception to natural death.
Yeah, and this is one of those minefield things for a guy that's running for politics. But I won't back out of the minefield unless I'm in the middle of it. But I'm not going to go into it if I don't have to. But
Mhm.
with regard to that, is I believe that that I have my own religious, if you will, beliefs, but I can't take those beliefs and say I'm going to run it that way. I have to understand that it's the will of the people, what they want. I deal with my creator; they deal with theirs. That's just the way I look at it. I bled for everyone in the nation. You serve for everyone in the nation, despite all the things that you hear and the vitriol we hear and see in these dialectic worlds we live in. But truly, that's how the governing for me, the senior public servant in Texas, will run it. But I have those beliefs. So Texas is a non-abortion state. Now there are certain caveats to that, which are currently being adhered to. I have no problem with changing it, but I do have a problem with people that still, in the corporate medicine world, that still use ICD codes to say, well, we're doing this elective termination of this birth because the person has an ectopic pregnancy, yet it's a viable pregnancy and it's not in that. So we got to be careful because those kind of things are the loopholes that allow for truly the letter of the law to be usurped or to be worked around. So we got to protect those things that the citizens of the state of Texas have asked for. So for me,
Good.
that's a stalwart, end statement kind of thing for me.
Yeah. Yeah. We're finding out, unfortunately, and I guess there's a big investigation about hospitals that are doing organ harvesting. And
That's,
that seems to be a big issue. So I'm glad you're doing you're in that realm of consciousness as well. Things that are out of whack and need to be brought back into line. It's good.
yeah, they do. Life is precious, and even for me, I'm a hunter, but I eat what I kill. I mean, I believe
Mhm.
that there's a circle of life that we have to adhere to that is biblical. We are to be stewards of our land, and including the animals that fall underneath that.
Yeah, very good. So term limits for career politicians. Wow, that's another
Yeah,
good one.
that's a tough one for a lot of people to swallow, and they're like, "Well, what if you're a good one?" I'm like, you gotta sit on one side of that fence or the other. And to me,
Right. Oh yeah.
I've argued. I did a little stint up there in D.C. with some congressional people, and I watched from behind that curtain for a while. And
Mm,
I'll be honest with you, it is the argument that you need to be in this job long enough to learn how to do your job. Well, then learn how to do your job while you're running, or while you're doing it, or before you run. Figure it
yes.
out because it's not
Yep.
that hard. Most of the people that I met really didn't have that same mentality that were wearing the uniform, if you will, of a congressman or senator. Typically, it's day one, start running for the next election and not
Mm,
taking care of your constituents. There are some good ones up there, though, and I've met, and I would try to emulate those. Uh, Louis Gohmert's one from Texas, a good friend of mine now. He's
oh yeah.
not in the Congress anymore, but I use his wisdom a lot of times for a temperature gauge on what I'm doing. But these are
Fantastic.
these are the people that you look at a mentor and you say, okay, that's somebody I'll listen to and learn from. So yeah, that's term limits are without it, we have fiefdoms. You know,
Yep. Yeah, we got a lot of people, especially in California. Seems like they're there and way past their time. Texas
yeah,
Doge. You kind of talked about that a little bit already. Task
yep,
force.
yep. Yeah, the task force will remain. Whether the next guy, if it's not Don Huffines, and we get somebody that doesn't want to do that, we could still do it. It doesn't require the comptroller. I just have to make the comptroller do their job. Um, the thing that we're running up against, and now I can talk about this at the end here, is the I don't know if we're at the end. I don't even know what time it is, but it's the it's the good old boy network of uniparty existence that's run where the center of gravity is not people. The center of gravity is things, right? It's things that have dollar signs attached to them. As a Green Beret in unconventional warfare, I can tell you that you can't go into the Tagab Valley, Afghanistan, or the Afghan-Pak
Mhm.
border, me into Pakistan, and if you don't put those peoples as a center of gravity that are going to protect you in your inner and outer rings of security, you're going to die,
Right.
right? You
Oh
have
yeah.
to you have to have that relationship. And that's one thing that, I noticed through the years and understanding the OSS and the model that was there and the Green Berets. Our forte really was unconventional warfare and really should be. We got caught up in a lot of direct action of just the nature of the beast of the last 20 years. But really going back to the Jedburgh model, where we link up with the Maquis and we set the conditions behind the battlefield for whatever it is that we have to do, the end state, that whatever it is, but that always requires a relationship, right? That's a relationship building. I've done it in embassies. I've done it with King of Jordan. I've had to develop those relationships as I was a commander of
Yep.
men that were in that country training his special operations guys. So for me, I have to look at that and say that's the center of gravity, guys. I'm going to remind you, these people are your center of gravity, not these things. That comes secondary. If you don't, we run the risk of maintaining status quo. And the country has changed, per the words of Alan West to me. Country has changed, and the politics hasn't.
Yep. Definitely. So joining volunteer sign up. You need
Mhm.
volunteers. You don't have like the big money behind you. So I highly
Everybody,
recommend.
yeah, everybody is volunteering. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so that's good. And that we're volunteering our time to like help get you out there. I know Scott McKay is excited about having you on his show.
I'm on board. Yes.
Nino, I think, is now that he knows who you are. He didn't even
Yeah.
know who you are, so I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. So now he knows
Yeah.
he's going to have you on a show. So
Yeah.
we're gonna have you back as over the every month if we need to. Every
Hey,
month. We'll, some
this is
point,
how
I
this,
think you're going
this
to be
is,
so big, you'll be like, oh yeah, I don't need to come on your
yeah,
show anymore. I
no,
hope that happens for you. But at this
no,
point, you need volunteers, and we've
we
helped a
do. We
lot of
need,
people.
we've got over 500 now and we're getting there.
Nice.
We know this is what I do know, that as long as we keep crescendoing and don't decrescendo, and you might get a blip down, that's okay. But understand that we've got to maintain that momentum, and we are.
Yes. Yes.
And so that's a good thing. We're getting enough money to do what we need to do. Now we can actually do some media, pay for some media. That's come. We've had some great benefactors that said, okay, tell me what you need specifically, and I'll give for that. And so when I started asking for that, it was, I need $50,000 a month to do this particular type of media because I
Mhm.
only need to target 1.5 million. Do we want more? Absolutely. But that 1.5 million, that requires me to do, and here's the math, I'm transparent, 8 million impressions. Okay, so that gets me 8 million impressions. So as soon as that happened the other day, we put that first one out. It literally off the charts on our website went bam, highest in 90 days. All right, so that's good. So those are just impressions, though. We got to be careful of the echo chamber stuff. But we know that we're moving up, and I know this because I've been asked to step out of the race a couple times by some people who said, "But wouldn't you rather do this and slide something across the table?" And I'm like, "No."
Wow.
Right? We both know what. Yeah, I worked at Gitmo for a little while. When I want to figure out somebody, I go like this. I go, I go, the mice principle: money, ideology, coercion, and ego. That's what will flip somebody.
Yep.
And in the intelligence community for sure, that's when you're looking for that counterterrorism within your own ranks. You got to figure out what it is that they're doing that's operating. So ego, hey, look, we all got one. But for me, it's exude confidence, demonstrate competence, and that's how it works. And if you mistake that for ego, that's what that is. But
Yep.
ideology, my Lord and Savior. That's all I can say. Coercion. Well, you can coerce me if you want to try. I've got skeletons in our closet. We all have them. I don't have anything that is a felony. I got nothing that would be embarrassing to my family or my friends. So good luck with that. And then money. I can live on what I have, and I'm happy with that. My dad was a very wealthy man. He wanted me to take over his medical business and his air ambulance company. He had the true American story. He came here with nothing and did real well. And I said,
Wow.
no, sir, I'm going to go back in the military and serve because 9/11. And I had the opportunity. I said no, and that was before I knew where I am now. And he passed, and that company's long gone. But that to me, it's not about that because I've seen people with a lot of money and they're completely miserable. Give
Yep.
me a mission, and I'm extremely happy.
Yeah. I mean, you're a special forces guy, man on a mission. Look out. So,
Look out.
well, donations also. I will be your donor from here on out, one of your donors. But
Thank you.
I highly encourage everybody, as you heard, it doesn't take a lot to make a big difference in
No,
a grassroots campaign like this. And so
does
help
not.
out however you can. It really makes a difference.
Thank you. Appreciate you, brother. Yeah, 1836 is on there for a reason. That's the year Texas became a republic. So $18.36 or
Oh, nice.
1836. That's our people that are the if you know thing. Yeah, Texans go, oh, he knows about 1836. Of course I do. I memorized and wrote the Travis letter on the walls of many places downrange, thinking I was going to be in the Alamo on the last day of my life. So
I've been in a situation like that too, and it makes you very focused and dedicated, like you are right now. So I mean,
yeah,
you survive
yeah,
that kind of stuff. You're like all the other stuff is like superfluous,
it
but
really is.
like people trying to push money across the table at you. You're like, get out of here.
Stop it. Yeah, just
Yeah.
stop. No, I shot that shot came across the bow, and I told him I'd think about it. And then I said, I'll give you 72 hours. And in 72 hours, I said on X, I said, well, I'm challenging Greg Abbott to a debate. And that dude texted me and said, so I guess I got my answer. I said, yes, sir, you got your answer. I knew what I was doing. I was waiting to see what, 72 hours, whether there would be another deal, which I wouldn't take. But it's, hey, I respect him because he's trying to hang on to something that he's got to hang on to. But for me, I got no ill will towards anybody. I really don't. I can't let emotions. I wasn't issued them. I can't let them come into play in this. I got to stay hyper focused, and that's what I do. Although sometimes my heart gets hurt when somebody calls me a grifter. I don't like that, but so be it.
You'll get thick skin about that. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Oh
And
yeah.
then
Yeah.
when you get that, you won't hear him anymore. You won't. I I used to get all bent out of shape. It's like, what, me? But
Me?
I don't see that anymore. It's like, wow.
No.
Yeah,
They're
it's
going to
great.
sling mud, and if that's what
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
slinging at you, then okay. Yeah.
absolutely. So, yeah, Dr. Pete Chambers, any final words? We're definitely supporting you. And wow,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to use this as a campaign, motivational type thing, you probably use this video everywhere, and they'll probably
Oh,
keep
we will. Yeah, it will go on our
good, good.
website. We put our videos. Just we're transparent. We got it out there. Yeah, I would say this. This is a moment. Like this is
Yes.
one of those moments. Like William Baird Travis. Hey, we need you to come to our aid. But truly, this is our aid is your aid, right? This is help me to help you kind of thing. And
Yeah.
June 6, 1944. George Taylor. He was a lieutenant colonel on the beach at Omaha Beach. He's looking around. His guys are hunkered down behind some wire, and he gets the Bangalore torpedoes pulled up, and he's all right. There's only two kinds of soldiers on this beach: the dead and those who will die. Let's go. This is where we're at in our nation, folks. We don't
Mhm.
have, I'm not scaring people. We don't have another 8 or 10 years of just complacency to allow for this movement that's happening. Trump started it. Non-politicians to at least come in and shake things up a little bit. A forcing function, if you will. This is one of those moments where we all hands on deck, to use a Navy term, because
Yep.
this is really those one of those moments in history where we've got to stop what's happening, because we don't want whatever agenda you want to call it, 2030, whatever that is. That's not America first. That's not Texas first. This is where we've got to focus. And so that's really my last and final statement.
Very good. Very good. Well, thanks for coming on. It's a pleasure and honor, like I said, to finally meet you. I'm glad
Same here,
God
brother.
put us
Yeah.
together, and I hope he honors you and gives you great victory going forward.
His will be done. You beware of what you wish for. That's what I prayed, and then looks like we're here. So
All right. Fantastic. All right. Thank you, sir.
thank you, sir. God bless.